Looks like it's starting up. Periscope's holding steady.
Wow, doing all three.
Yeah. Well, the Periscope feeds into Twitter. Yeah.
Hey, Twitter, are we working?
Yeah.
So we're on what?
Yeah, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, and we're on Twitter.
Ooh.
We are
Hello,
YouTube, Facebook.
Internet.
We're VHF and UHF
We're here. I can
And
see
more.
everything's connected.
and FM. Okay, hey, we're going to go over, just so you know, we're going to go over Ryzen Threadripper. It's the one thing everyone wants to know about today. And Intel says, hey, we're here too. Core i9 and Intel's 8th gen Eclipse stuff.
Nice.
Yeah?
Yeah,
I don't need that
Looks
stuff.
like
Just throw it on the floor.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm out.
Ready? Okay.
looks like we're good.
So I'm going to do the intro. Here's how it works. If you've never seen this before, we're going to do the intro. This is being pre-recorded. Adam will cut out all this slop, as we call it, and
Maybe.
then it'll look like slicker. So we're going to do this.
In theory.
Ready?
Maybe.
I'm tired. I was playing video games last night, actually, after a very, very long 2 weeks of work. So,
Nice.
but, okay, we're here. I'm awake. Ready?
Yep.
In this episode of The Full Nerd, Ryzen Threadripper review, Core i9 specs, and Intel says, forget about that Eclipse. Hey, I just put my notes away, but here's what I say at the beginning. Welcome to The Full Nerd, episode 20, what day? 29, recorded on August 10th. I got that right, 2017. I'm Gordon Maung with co-host Brad Charkis.
Hello.
Elena Yee.
Hey, everybody.
And controlling the vertical and horizontal. Be nice to him, otherwise he will cut us off. Adam Patrick Murray.
Hey, we're here to talk about the new iPhone 8 rumors, right?
Yes,
That's what
iPhone
we're
8
doing?
rumors. That's it. No,
I'm
we're
just
kidding. Don't say that because you know what happens. Suddenly like, oh, it's trending now.
Well, we'll check this out. We got already in YouTube chat. We got Venezuela. We got Lima, Peru. We've got Singapore. We've got New Jersey.
Ooh,
and they're all
international.
asking for benchmarks.
Ah, so let's go
Yeah.
over benchmarks. The top story of the day, Ryzen Threadripper. We got the benchmarks. We're going to go over them right now. I've been testing all of them. We got one right here, in fact, an unopened Threadripper chip. We can't give it away. We wish we could. And, of course, we have a sample, mechanical sample. That is dead. Supposedly, I don't know. AMD actually, for people who don't know, AMD included these really cool Threadripper samples. But, you know, for all I know, they're going to just say, hey, that thing works. Man, did you break it in
You've
half?
just been tossing it around.
So, but no,
Pull
it's
it out of the
dead
case.
as far as we know.
Worked.
So, but you want to? We're going to talk all about the benchmarks because it is about performance. We're going to try to go all mad and for us. Apologies to those who are listening. We will try to audio cast it as well, trying to be aware of people not being able to see the stream, see the actual visuals. Adam's going to let's just kick it off. Let's start. You know, I kind of symbolically want to start this with. Oh wait, why is the
Maybe like a high-level summary of what we're about to see.
maybe?
Oh, look
Or are
at
we
all,
just
look at
gonna
all these
dive right
charts.
in?
Look at all these colors.
I'm looking for. Okay, I just want to. So basically, for again, audio people, this is a benchmark. We're talking. We're going to kick this off with Blender. This is the version I'm using is 2.78b. And the benchmark is the BMW benchmark, which is a very popular free benchmark. If you want to run it, you can run it on your own machine, just downloading Blender and downloading
Which Threadripper are we talking about?
So this is, Brad is awake here, apparently. Ryzen Threadripper 1950X. It is a 16-core version. I did not have time to actually test the 12-core version, but honestly, I'm more interested in what the 16-core version does. So the reason I want to start off, we're going to kick this off with, let's see if I can make the ugly desktop stuff disappear. The reason I want to kick this off with Blender is this is exactly where AMD started the whole Zen hype almost a year ago, right? So in Intel's face, AMD shows up at IDF, Intel's developer forum down the street. They invite everybody over and they show off their first Zen results running Blender, and it's fast. It's more than what people expected. It's as fast, you know, they're claiming as a Broadwell core. And today we have the 16-core version, which I'm going to show you right. Crazy, isn't it? Let's see. Oh, hey, it's drawing. Nice. Look at this. So this, I'm drawing for people who are listening. This is Threadripper.
Look at that Madden style.
Look at that Madden. Look. See?
Also, hi from India.
Boom. Right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Boom.
So for people who are listening, Threadripper is at the top of the chart.
Meaning it's the slowest.
Meaning it's
yeah. So 16 cores. I know, of course, everybody's like, well, that ain't fair. 16 cores versus 10 core. Remember, Intel has not actually shipped those anything else. The top end Core i9, which I reviewed, gosh, it feels like a month and a half ago. That is the fastest. The one with the most cores out today. So
and it's fair because it's the exact same price too.
And it's the same price.
$1,000.
These are both $1,000. So you're looking at Threadripper 1950X, 16 cores, 159 seconds to render that load in Blender. The 10-core Skylake X, Core i9 7900X, 203. Again, 203 versus 159. That's a lot, right? I mean, that's very, very decent. That you're getting. You know, this is a multi-threaded benchmark, which of course is the whole reason you even want Threadripper, but it is fast. We're against its equivalent $1,000 Intel chip. It's a beatdown, right? So let me try to switch this to the. Can I go? No. Okay. Thank you. Windows. What should we do next? Let's do Cinebench. So the next one, of course, is the famous Cinebench Maxon's Cinebench test. This thing really does scale with core count and. Again, on top of this list for people who can't see, Threadripper 1950X, 3022, Core i9 7900X, 2180. I mean, it is just a beatdown. Yeah, it just destroys the equivalent $1,000 Intel CPU.
Yeah, but these are the heavily multi-threaded ones that we're starting with, right?
Yep. We are going to start. I mean, it's so interesting. It's kind of nice. Can I draw here? Oh, yeah. Hey, look at that. So look, check this out. 3022. That's 16 cores. And where's it's not bad. Look at that. That's very nice scaling because this is the 8-core. Look at this is actually working here. I'm drawing on the screen.
Is
I'm amazed.
Underlining the 1800X score right now, which is what? I can't see. It's a
Ryzen 7 1800X. Sorry, Lainey can't see it. 1606. To 3022, so you're going from 8 cores in a Ryzen 7 to 16 cores in a Threadripper 1950X. Cinebench is, look at that's a very nice scaling here. I'm just amazed. Who knew that you could do all this pen stuff on a Mac?
Never mind that gigantic HP logo on the back of that laptop.
Whoops.
But that is just,
that glue that AMD is using, it seems like it's working pretty well.
Everybody? Yeah, okay. Wait, listen, what else?
Real quick, Mark is asking why no 1920?
So no 1920S. There was just simply no time to test it. And I gotta be honest too. I mean, this when you review hardware, you get the motherboard, you get the CPUs, you get a pre-release BIOS, and then honestly, about 2 days into it, you'll get another BIOS, and then another couple days later, you'll get another BIOS. They just keep coming as they continue to make, improvements in the BIOS. And at a certain point, I lock down the BIOS, and you don't keep changing stuff because you got to run all the tests. So the 12-core part wasn't tested here. I am going to be running some tests eventually on it. But, you could sort of figure it's going to be, close. It's a 1950X, a little more base clock on it, but 4 less cores, right? So you could figure it's going to be, it's going to be comparable to a 10-core, a little bit faster in some multi-threaded tests is what AMD's guidance is. And I think a few of the reviews, I haven't had a chance to read them this morning. It holds its own against Intel's $1,000 CPU. There's definitely something Skylake X is faster at, though, which we are going to get into.
Oh, real quick, we got a question from eLopez580. Any bugs or problems during your testing?
So as far as any problems I had, no, not really. I mean, if you going all the way back to Ryzen, the Ryzen 7 was a really, really rough launch. AMD, I think, knows it. Anybody who actually tested the chip early on, like the board I had, I'd post that thing. I can go make coffee, come back, it'd still be posting. It really took 2 minutes to get up to the OS. Later on, of course, I got a lot better. This Ryzen Threadripper, I really had no issues. The only real issue is installing this thing, which internet apparently I have viewed an internal video that AMD sent over, like this is how you do it for the press, and I actually did it, and this is before any directions were issued. I actually did it the way AMD recommends. It doesn't work that way for me anyway. And I don't know if it's the socket on the board I had, but they recommend not torquing. They recommend torquing in order all the way down. So you torque the first screw all the way down on the bottom, and then you do 2 and 3. But what we found is once you torque down 1 all the way down, that the entire, I'm going to guess it's a load plate, basically pops up and you can't get the rear thread started. So maybe it's just an out of spec socket. I don't know.
Gordon, you have no idea what you're doing.
I have no idea what I'm talking about. It turns out I was right. Yeah, I thought, I was wrong.
No, you were wrong. The internet says you were wrong.
That's actually what AMD. So that was really the only problem. Board worked perfectly. I mean, honestly, it was pretty smooth. I mean, no instability issues. This is much smoother as to be expected than Ryzen 7. Ryzen 7 was really the first of the litter. This is the latest. This is the newest, and it's pretty polished. Is it perfect? I'll tell you, hell no. There's never such thing as a final product at launch.
We got a couple more awesome questions because they keep coming. Tech Guy Nation asks, what did you use to cool the Threadripper during your testing?
So we used a Thermaltake. Oh my god, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right. The Flowring 360.
The
Flowring 360. It's a CLC made by Thermaltake. Really beautiful.
Very nice lights.
Really just lovely LEDs on it.
Weird spelling.
It's a 3120 rad, huge cooler, and again, you get your Threadripper. It's going to come with the actual mounting kit on there, so you can install it. And I use that to install that.
And Christopher on YouTube. By the way, we're going to Twitter. If anyone wants to watch live on Twitter, yay for all the Twitter fans. Christopher on YouTube's asking, are the benchmark stock speeds?
They are all stock speeds. And again, this brings up that BIOS issue I mentioned. You got to realize they can change kind of where all the CPU base clocks are. I mean, they don't change the actual rated base clock, but they will change where the CPU will run. So these are all base clocks. There was no overclocking done here. Again, that's another thing that kind of went out the window. I was going to say under the bus, but I used to rail against people saying that, so I probably should not say the same thing.
I think for reviews, I think using the base, what everyone's going to get out of the box is the best way to go anyway.
Yeah, and that is one thing about overclocking, right? Because I know every time you go to a forum, it's always like, oh, I got my chip up to 6 gigahertz using popcorn on it. It's like, no. One, it's going to change from person to person, so your mileage will vary. You have different cooling, you have different power supply. You got a different CPU, so yours could just be been out to not the same as popcorn guys, and you really can't sort of assume that you're going to hit a certain speed. Although I will say, and I don't have it this time, ASUS motherboard maker typically in the past, and I haven't seen a report yet, but typically in the past they'll say like, hey, we have like 80 of these things. We put our expert overclockers on it, and here's where we're hitting with, obviously these early silicon pieces. So we sort of expect you'll hit this amount of overclock out of the CPU. Now they've overclocked 75. It's enough to go like, okay, this is probably a reasonable overclock for a lot of people. But as we know from Haswell, not Devil's Canyon, sometimes you got a really good overclocker and sometimes you got a dud, right? So you just don't know. So I would not count on overclocking guaranteeing anything. Like I think most people assume a Ryzen 7 1700 is going to give you 4 gigahertz out of the box, and most people are hitting pretty good clocks, but there's a chance it's going to suck. Oh, wait, here's another benchmark. Here's Pavre. We're switch back.
Yeah, let's do it.
So this is Pavre. Audio listeners, again, hey, what a surprise. Threadripper 1950X at the very top here with a score of 6,129 pixels per second. PPS, this is Pavre 3.9. And 10-core Core i9 7900X, 4,522. Look at this. You could fit like a whole truck in the difference. Right? So, that is a lot. And then, of course,
I'm interested to get to the single thread stuff.
Oh, okay. Do we...
it's obvious at this point 16 cores are going to womp 10 cores in a multi-threaded thing, but the real question is, how does it hang thread for thread or whatever? And
also we should say that, if they want to see all the charts, they can come to your review on PC World, right?
Yeah, except, you know what? I got to say, I agree. No, I mean, of course, everybody's like, well, what do you think? It's got 16 cores. It's going to be 10 cores. Not making fun of Brad, but at the same time, you got to give them their moment in the sun, right? We're like, hey, AMD's, we just ship you, 16-core CPU for $1,000. Other guys are giving you 10 cores for $1,000. And you want to talk about single-threaded stuff? That sounds like somebody. No, I'm just kidding. Just giving Brad a hard time. I did PowerPoint, I did Blender, I did Cinebench. Oh, you know what? Let's do some rendering stuff. Let's do Premiere. Which one is this? There we go.
The review on the site is exhaustive too. I think it wound up being like over 4,000 words and dozens of charts. So it's super comprehensive.
Right.
So you did it in like a day.
Yeah, I did it. There was also there were some. I lost time doing this review because we had to get the review done early for internal purposes. But let's talk about this one. This is Premiere. Now, we're not seeing the fantastic scaling we're seeing in the 3D rendering apps. I don't know, Elaine, I don't know if you can see that.
I can see it.
Oh, look at this. On top, what a surprise, Threadripper 1950X. What we do is we take a 4K video shot by Adam, maybe Dan, and we convert that using Premiere Creative Cloud 2017. We export it using Blu-ray, the Blu-ray 1080p preset. And the 10 core is 207. So again, I just got to give them their moment, right? There's a nice little gap between 166 and 207. You're looking at what, 15, 20%? I forget. This is somewhere in the story, but
I mean that equates for somebody like me. That equates to money in the bank. The more I can get those encoding out the door, the more I can get videos done. Right?
Yep.
It's productivity up. With Threadripper, is that what you were saying?
Yeah, productivity is up, and this is Premiere. And one thing I do want to point out, because I just have to do this, because somebody here wanted more charts. But look, so this is using the CPU to do all the encoding. A lot of smart people, I was going to say the A word. I can say smart ass, right? So a lot of people say, I use my GPU to encode. Well, that's stupid. Well, I actually did the same workload using the GPU, and here's what you get. So this is Premiere Creative Cloud 2017, exact same workload. Now, instead of using the CPU, we are using GPU. I do select maximum render option, which is supposed to help when you're changing resolutions in Premiere. And look at this. On top, what a surprise, Threadripper 1950X, 16 cores, 62 seconds. Obviously, GPU is faster, but 10-core Skylake X down here at 73 seconds. Pretty much almost the same as 10-core Broadwell E. So you still get, and as much as everybody says CPUs don't matter with Premiere and encoding because everybody's using GPU, but look at that, 62 seconds.
Wrong, fake news.
Yeah, if you're using a quad core, because like, you do it, when you're looking at 117 seconds, this is the exact same, and that's on a 7700K, right? So that's a lot. If you are, look at this. You know what? This is like lunch.
I can't read that screen anymore.
But you go out, this is like, so look.
It's also a nice baby blue cord.
It depends. So look, if you work at home, you're working on a video editor, you're working on a project, you can go, okay, I want to be right here. So because it's like this time I can get another job, I can go empty the garbage, I could clean out the fridge, right?
Yeah, why not?
Now,
hey, we're quick. I gotta put on the brakes because we got a couple people in YouTube chat, Mark and E Lopez 580. Go over the specs of your rig. What you used to test it.
So we did test it. So Ryzen Threadripper 1950X, going to go from memory here, DDR4 3200. I will talk about that. We use an ASUS Zenith Extreme board. I think the final BIOS I locked down to was the one, I forget, I think we got it like Sunday or something like that. But
it's in your review.
It's in the review somewhere. It is definitely in the review. So what else? And a GeForce GTX 1080 Founders Edition. I almost said reference card, but those don't exist anymore. And I did use an M.2 Samsung 960 Pro NVMe drive. But for all the CPU, most of my other tests were using a SATA drive. But what I did is for things like where the storage does matter in Handbrake and Premiere, we actually use a different device. So like these Premiere encodes, the source and the encode target drives were NVMe drives and a PCIe slot. They were not actually the OS install drive. So really, it's going to take the storage differences out of the equation. And of course, again, the Thermaltake Flow ring, which is spelled FLOE RIA RIING.
It's not a typo.
No, wait, that's right. Flow Ring 360.
Flow Ride.
Yes.
Hey, so we got another question from Dave. This might go a little too in the weeds, but on YouTube. He's asking, there's reports of the 3200 DDR4 restricting the power to the cores. Did you explore that at all?
I did not. I mean, my performance numbers were pretty spot on to what the sanity check numbers on, so I didn't look into it. They actually recommended 3200 because remember, Threadripper and Ryzen, the memory clocks are tied to the Infinity Fabric, right? So as you increase the memory speed, it actually clocks that up. So higher memory, higher bandwidth, higher clock speed memory does actually benefit Ryzen more than it does Intel. So that's interesting.
Cool.
And again, there were no crashes, no instability. It was perfectly rock solid, as I would hope you would expect from a server-based product. So but you know what? One thing I got to say, and I've been reviewing hardware for a long time, there will be problems. There are problems with everything. You can review something, you can use it for 6 months, and most people don't get that time, right? You're going to get a week, a couple weeks, less than that often. You are not going to find the same warts in a product that occur when you take that same product and you ship it to 50,000 people, and they use it in 50,000 different ways with 45,000 different power supplies and this, and there's just a lot of things that no one can find. In fact, even the companies, right? This is why AMD and even Intel have issues. So,
cool. All right.
So okay, do we
single-threaded charts? Come on.
Single-thread. Okay. All right. Well, no, wait. Let's do one more. All right. I'm sorry. We gotta
putting it off.
You know what? There's see, that's the worst thing. Now, I will tell you that when you're a reviewer and you spend all these Brad understands this too, Elena. You spend all this time making all these charts, running all these tests, and it's like, oh, whatever, we don't even care, right?
You just had the intern do it, right?
No, you got to do it yourself, because then you got to blame although it is good to have an intern because you can blame them. But let me do one other thing. This is Blender plus Cinebench, simultaneous run.
That's interesting.
So what I did was I ran Blender, the same previous test you saw earlier, and then I also ran Cinebench at the same time. This chart is a little confusing because I wanted to combine them. These are both simultaneously running. I started Cinebench first, and then I kicked off Blender, and this is multiple runs. If you do multitasking tests, AMD recommends that you actually bind the affinity of each core to the application, but I did not want to do that because I think most people don't do that. I did find that starting Cinebench first and then starting Blender after would actually give me very repeatable results. I could repeat this days later, in fact. So so it's not confusing. I'm gonna wait, why is this? Okay, we're gonna do some drawing here. Let's just so people aren't confused. People listening, Core i9-7900X. Remember, I'm running Cinebench at the same time. Score is 207 and, that's backwards. Core i9-7900X. The Blender encode, which is lower is better, 207 seconds. And with Threadripper, it's 167. So we're getting a nice little, and remember, we're running these at the same time. Going over to Cinebench, longer is better. 10-core Skylake X down here, 184. And 1950X up here, 269. I mean, that's just nice, isn't it? And we are doing two heavily multi-threaded tasks simultaneously, and more cores get you more. So
sweet.
All right,
love it. So single thread now.
All right, single thread. Let's do single threaded stuff.
Brad will finally get what he wants.
Yes. All right. So we're going to start this.
I want gaming, but I figured that's after single thread.
All right. So let's do Cinebench. So I got this up on the screen now. We're in drawing mode, I guess. Well, let's pick a red, right? Although, what is AMD's official color? I'm confused.
I thought you said it was green for the CPU.
See, for old timers like me, it's green, right? Blue is Intel, of course, except for that orange Pentium 4 phase, but definitely green. But okay, single threaded task. So this is where I took Cinebench. Let's get that to go away. It's not going away, but
it's fine. Whatever.
At the top of the chart for audio listeners, if you're watching, you can see. Look at that. Skylake X, Core i9-7900X, 10 core with a score of 188. And this is the impressive thing about Core i9, that first 10-core Skylake X part. As much as people want to bag on it, look at that. Single-threaded performance, it is the same performance as a Core i7 7700K, right? 188.
That's pretty damn good.
Yeah, that's 10 cores clocking up there with a Kaby Lake part quad core. That is impressive. As much as people want to bag on it, you are really getting fantastic, high clocks, really good IPC out of Skylake X, out of Core i9. So that's really where it shines here. Number 3 on this list is the $230 Core i5 7600K. So if you're running single-threaded tests, yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. Oh, wait. So where does Threadripper fall? We're looking at 168.
Oh, yeah. Losers.
Like number 6 on your chart.
Number 6 on the chart. It's basically, where's my Ryzen 7 part? I'll say Ryzen 7's down here. 158. That is a somewhat older score, but I don't think it's changed that much. And Threadripper 168. So there are some improvements in Threadripper, slightly. You're probably getting a little higher clocks. But yeah, you're not going to win any single-threaded contest. But at the same time, it's not too bad. 168 from in IPC in single clocks. Man, I am just tired. That is basically about the equivalent of what we're getting out of a Core i7 6900K and just a little bit off of what the Broadwell E was getting, the Core i7 6950X. So not bad. So that is, again, it's not embarrassing. It's not horrible. It is not this, FX fanboys. It is not an FX 837 Bashir with a 91. Right, that is just.
That's not on a 100-point scale.
That is not great performance there. So,
but it has 8 cores.
But it has 8 cores. Yes. So let's. Do you want?
Ouch, Brad.
So let's. What's another single-threaded test? We're going to do one more single-threaded test.
Yeah. What else you got?
Let's do Pavre, right? Pavre's. Is that good? Okay, this is Pavre again, but we are running the single-thread test. This lets the CPU, for people who don't know, run at higher clock speeds. Most of these chips, you run a single-threaded task, it will run at its highest clock speed setting. At the very top...
Make that full screen.
Oh, full screen. There we go.
Boom.
Bam. The top, Kaby Lake. Core i7 7700K. Yes, everyone mocked it. Everyone did. I always like to remind people of that. Remember that? Oh, why did Intel even make a Kaby Lake CPU? It's just Skylake. Well, 481, right? Pixels per second. 481. I think that's 1,000. I forget it. I forget the scale is 481,000 or 481 million, but it is right there at the very top. Number 2, Core i9 7900X, 466. Again, that is very respectable. As much as people want to talk some smack, 7900X does give you those high clocks at low thread loads, right? So it's respectable. And again, hey, another pattern here. Number 3, Core i5 7600K, $230, 443. From there, we keep going down. Threadripper, $399. Again, it's not gonna win anything. It's just that Kaby Lake part is. For this, it's probably running it at 4.5 gigahertz, I think, which is the top turbo bin on a single-threaded task. So it's cooking. And Threadripper, even on single-threaded, it's not bad, not embarrassing. Again, embarrassing is 240 out of the FX 8370. If I added an atom here, it would feel better. But come on. That's just
it seems to me an awful lot like what you would say for like Ryzen 7 or whatnot at this point. If you need the extra cores, it really kicks ass. But if you need pure single-threaded performance, Intel might be better. Is it wishy-washy like that?
Okay. Do we want to do gaming, and then I'm going to sum that up at the end? I like that chart. Again.
Sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
We're going to do a couple gaming things.
I feel like the gaming thing will kind of show your point. Brad.
So actually, let's do gaming.
Yeah, Gordon, I bought this really expensive chip to play games.
I bought some gaming. I'm buying a 1950X so I can play Counter-Strike Global
and not stream it.
Just by myself. That's why I'm there. The thing is, there are
all those frames.
People who do that. Let's start this off with 3D Mark. Everyone loves 3D Mark. This is Firestrike.
Boom.
One thing I didn't explain, which we're going to talk about now, is the game mode. So one thing AMD did, because remember, Threadripper is just basically 2 Ryzen 7s inside the same CPU connected with, Infinity Fabric. There's definitely a lot of latency as you go from chip to chip, because you have 2 4 cores connected with the CCX, and then those now connect to a second die so they said this could hurt us in some things. So, and since it's not going to be a deal breaker to hurt us, but some people don't want that. So we've created a mode. You go to Ryzen Master Utility, you click on game mode, and what it does is it tells Windows, okay, ignore the second die. So run everything on that first 8-core die. And also we switch from local mode memory, which treats all of the memory in the system as the same. So it's not like it's going to favor one of these DIMMs and not favor this DIMM. That also costs latency. What they also do is they say 1, ignore that second die, and 2, only use the memory controller on the first die. So they really...
That's super interesting, actually.
That's super interesting. And, I probably should not have started off with this. Let me pull up this. Okay, this is not...
That's a really clever way to get around some of the, not flaws, but design quirks of the way this chip's built.
Do I have... Where is it? Okay, I am really... Okay, here we go. So here's latency. I'm just going to pull this up. On this chart, we see the differences. So by default... The Ryzen Threadripper is in. Oh, we need the chart up on there, Adam.
Oh, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
He is just what? Adam's checking his Facebook feed.
Huh?
He's bored by the charts. This is what people want, man. But look, so this is creation mode. So by default, Threadripper out of the box will ship in all the cores. Windows will recognize all the cores, all the memory, the greatest memory bandwidth, blah blah blah. This is what you get. So the latency in that mode using SiSoft Sandra 2017 SP1, let's switch over to drawing mode, 74.4 nanoseconds, right? That's your default. That's what you're going to get on our Threadripper. So AMD says, hey, some games really, really like lower latency. We switch over to game mode, and we now get 55 nanoseconds, right? So you can, very nice. That's a very decent drop in latency there. But the problem with that...
What's the problem with that, Gordon?
I feel like almost like a college professor. The problem with that, Mueller, is you give up your memory bandwidth, right? So look. So here we go. Oh, we're drawing. It's still drawing now. Ooh. 1950X default out of the box. I was hitting 62 gigs a second. Quad channel mode, right? You could get over to game mode, and we're looking at 36 gigabytes per second. So, hey, you're basically not using that second memory controller. You cut your memory bandwidth in half. But so with the real lesson, though, is you want to experiment. And I'm going to run over some of these. Can I just do this? No, yes. That doesn't.
A programmer on YouTube asked, can it run Crysis?
It can. You can run Crysis on integrated graphics. That is a crazy thing. So we're going to go through a couple quick games. Let's start off with Tomb Raider Ultimate. I don't know why. No, wait. Let's do Rainbow Six. Okay.
They could probably run Crysis while running Crysis on a virtual machine with all those cores.
I was just going to say, I was like, you can run Crysis.
You can emulate Android, and then you can run Crysis emulate. No. So here is Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege. We're running at 19 by 10, medium quality. And look, every time.
Real quick, E Lopez 580 is asking about the game mode. Do you still have full access to the RAM capacity?
Yes, you do, but at a lower performance. I did not test that, but that was the guidance from AMD. It's like, yeah, it's like, in fact, the dies are not turned off. That second CPU is there. It's not like they turn it off in the BIOS. You do have to reboot. You could go to game mode or creative mode. You switch, you got to reboot. But what they've done is they've told Windows just ignore the second die. So it is on. It's not actually off. And so they did that so you can actually access the second, because you can actually, it's the default game mode lets you set it to NUMA mode, so that it is to lower latency, and then also selects the 8 cores, a single die. But you can actually say, hey, I want it to run in a NUMA mode. instead of local mode for memory for the lower latency, but I want all of the cores recognized by Windows. So there's some things you can really mess with here. In actual gaming, this is not a surprise. It's interesting. I read some of the reactions from Reddit this morning. People were surprisingly a little disappointed. I don't know why. So my result here at the top end part is, hey, Core i7 6950X. Yes, 6950X Broadwell E. It is not the 7900X Skylake part. There's a little Skylake X is actually a little bit lower in performance, probably from that mesh network they're using now.
Yep.
Top end, we're looking at, again, medium, Rainbow Six Siege, 19 by 10 medium. This is, of course, what everybody says you would never run at, because why would I run that? Well, 274 frames a second out of a Broadwell E part. Kaby Lake, 7700K, 270. Hey, not bad, right? So Threadripper is what you want to know about. 1950X, 248. So, 274 versus 248. Yeah, that's pretty much was kind of like when Ryzen first came out and everybody's like, why? It's not a deal breaker, but you're like, why is it slower, right? I want it to be the same speed and blah, blah, blah.
Better than your Xbox.
Better than your Xbox. A lot of disappointment there.
The interesting part to me is the game mode being higher.
Yeah, so, in Rainbow Six Siege with game mode 19 by 10 medium, we go from 248 with game mode on up to 261. So, yeah. Does game mode make Threadripper 1950X faster than a Kaby Lake or a Skylake X or Broadwell E part in games at low resolution? No, it does not. I haven't found it. Maybe somebody has out there, but some things it gets close. A lot of things it just gets it close enough it doesn't matter. I'd argue this is not a huge deal, but look at that game mode, 248 to 261. That is, that's nice, right? That's really nice. I mean, it works, right? So, and I will say I saw that in a bunch of other games, which I'm not going to show off all the charts here, but it really does give you a nice performance boost.
Something to keep in mind with these is I agree we should test them at the lower resolution so you can see true CPU performance and take it off the GPU. But I agree with the thought that if you buy a $1,000 CPU, you're probably going to have a GTX 1080 and running it at 1440 or 4K. So you'll probably notice it much less if you're having a high-end GPU running at a high resolution, because the load would move more towards the GPU than the CPU. So I think in realistic use case scenarios, the gap would be much lower than what you see here.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I could show off a chart actually, let me show that off. I will demonstrate that for people watching the stream. This is...
Yes, Sandland on YouTube's asking, do you have any Overwatch or PlayerUnknown Battleground charts?
I don't, but it will. I'm going to guess it's going to look like this one. This is Tomb Raider Ultimate 19 by 10. This is a 1080. All of these machines are running 1080 parts, and you could see very top end again. Whoa, look at that. See? And everybody talks smack about the $1,723 Intel One for that Core i7 6950X, but it is the fastest CPU here again. Look, 186 frames a second in Tomb Raider Ultimate, right? So, as you get up, even in Tomb Raider Ultimate, you get up to higher game settings, it turns into pretty much the GPU is the bottleneck. And for Overwatch, for PlayerUnknown, unless it's just horribly unoptimized, yeah, I'm gonna guess it's not Battlefield 5, right? You're not really pushing the graphics card that hard. Pretty mainstream. One thing I will say about looking at charts like this, I do agree we all run at at high quality settings, at higher resolutions. But if I were to look at this chart as a consumer, and I say, well, I'm not buying this $1,700 Broadwell E. $1,000 for a Threadripper? Look at this. I can get the same performance of an FX 8370 that I could get out of the vending machine now. So what do I need? 10 core, 16 core? No, forget it. I'm going to go out and get an FX 8370. Look, it's so close. 186 versus 1. Look at that. And so that is one fallacy I think of, sort of like, well, let's ignore the low resolution stuff. As that is yes. Brad's point, which I agree with totally. It's
hold up real quick. Mike Bob on YouTube saying, you keep shilling Intel. This is actually pathetic. You guys are like Hillary supporters.
What?
Do you
wow, there's just so much in that one statement.
I'm just thinking that's like, that's I'm just thinking like the that's like the judo there. To somehow say we're saying Intel is better, even though we just showed Threadripper just kicking the crap out of a Skylake X.
Yeah, but you're only showing one game according to Mike. You know, you're not really.
Oh, well, I could also show. What else should I show? Do I have the chart here? I may not actually have the chart. I do have Ashes of the Singularity Escalation, which I actually I got to admit I talked to AMD about this. I was like, what is going on here? I have not figured it out, but look, check this out. Skylake X, and I don't have this because there's a newer version of the game, and I could not get 10 different builds, but Skylake X 7900X running DDR4 2666 and 1080, same graphics drivers, 50.4 frames a second. Default Threadripper 1950X 41 frames a second. So yeah, I mean that was actually lower than I expected. I really thought, especially because I do the crazy. So this is 19x10, the crazy setting in the game, and also CPU focused. I got to say I was kind of surprised because one, Ashes of the Singularity, the Oxide they totally jumped on board optimizing for Ryzen at the beginning. It's actually one of the things that sort of made me decide, you know what, this really it's just optimization. The reason why Ryzen was slower, it's just optimization. This, though, I can't explain it. It's a little weird. I mean, I sort of chalk it up like, this, for the most part, most of the games I ran, Threadripper, and look at that, 40. Look, we go from 41 to 45 by kicking in the game mode. It's still very close. So I really expect most of the games, again, neck and neck for the most part. This game, it was worse. And I got to say, there are some things, I'm not only going to talk about how great Threadripper is. Again, it just kicks ass in all the multiplayer, but look, check out this WinRAR. Let's look at this WinRAR result.
Well, I think it's important to keep in mind, too, that even if it is slower than Intel parts for gaming, you would not buy this chip as a gaming first use case, right? You would buy this chip if you need the 16 cores to get stuff done. And the results that we're seeing are totally fine for gaming.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's worthwhile to keep that perspective, I think.
Yeah, people, and I think that perspective was lost with all the original Ryzen 7 stuff because it was such a puzzler. No one knew what was going on. So I think most people sort of keyed up on something's going on. You need to be aware of this. I got to say, if you're building a gaming rig, any modern Ryzen, any modern Core, chip, and a fast video card, it for the most part doesn't matter. Even FX, clearly in some games can hang, but in gaming, this is not a deal breaker. But you don't have to be first in everything. I mean, it would be great, but the thing is to be in the running, and for the most part, in all the game tests I did, Threadripper is in the running. It is right up there. I mean, there's some things where go ahead.
And it's clearing away first in multi-core applications. So
if you're spending $1,000, then you're going to be fine for what you're going to be using it for.
Yes, for what you're going to be using. But just to show you, it wasn't all roses. This one's puzzler. I talked to AMD about it. They're like, we don't do great in that. They're looking into it, but check this out. This is WinRAR 5.40 built-in benchmark. It's basically they're testing, compression, decompression performance. Top end 6950. See, it was worth it. That you're sitting there, I'm like, I was worth my $1,723. It's like, because you're getting the highest score. Look at that, 27,046. Sorry, I wrote over that.
Boom.
But, and here's the puzzler. Threadripper is down here. Like when I ran this and I got 12,165 versus 27,000 out of a Broadwell E, I was like, what the hell is going on here? I was like, well, I must have run this in single threaded mode by accident. I did not. So I'd say, was it in game mode? Am I running? No, it was not. It's just something about WinRAR just does not like Threadripper. I mean, look at this. The score out of this Threadripper, 16 cores versus a quad core Kaby Lake is, it's almost as fast as a quad core Kaby Lake. The Ryzen 7 1800X also is, not doing great either. So I got to wonder, it's just something with the architecture of Threadripper that WinRAR doesn't like. And it's possible because, look, again, 6950X Broadwell E, 27,000. Core i9 7900X, Both of them 10-core parts, $23,000. When I did my Core i9 review, I went to Intel and says, what the hell's going on? Why is Skylake X getting its ass kicked by Broadwell E? They're like, we looked into it. It's probably due to the mesh architecture that they did. So on Broadwell E, when they connected all of those 10 cores, they used a ring bus. So as Intel says, we need to put more and more cores on here. We're going to go to a mesh network. Hey, mesh network kind of sounds a lot like Infinity Fabric, right? A high-speed fabric that connects a lot of different things together. It's actually possible there's something with WinRAR that just does not like these fabric designs, because it also penalized Skylake X as much as it's penalized Threadripper almost. I mean, this is pretty extreme. So, you know, again, as much as I showed all those other, I want to show this because all the other benchmarks I showed, it kicks butt, but...
we got some people in the chat asking about 7-zip, because there's a big, you know, this is very decisive who uses WinRAR and who uses 7-zip.
Well, interestingly, I do have a 7-zip result here. So,
oh, sweet, more charts.
It's more charts, which is like, so yeah. So the answer, of course, I'm surprised AMD didn't say this. Like, who uses WinRAR? Just use 7-zip, because you fire up 7-zip, 9.20 internal benchmark, and Threadripper. Look at this, sitting pretty up at the top here. Look at that.
Look at that score.
68,894. Next thing down, Broadwell E, 57,000. 7900X Skylake X, 56,000. It's just, look at that. It's just kicking all kinds of butt.
See, that seems to scale better.
Yeah, so this is what I expected out of WinRAR, but again, I just kind of wonder if, you know, that it's something with the mesh network design of, you know, Skylake X, Infinity Fabric, and Threadripper that just WinRAR doesn't like, or whatever compiler you're using. You know, again, not a deal breaker, but, you know, there are some things you're just like, huh? Why is it not running great? You're going to run into that situation as you do stuff. So,
but what's the bottom line, Gordon?
Okay, here's the bottom line. Brad is like, stop with the charts. Stop with the charts.
I can't see them.
Yeah.
All right, so this is the one I
One more.
This is the very last one, I promise.
Oh, no.
It's the very last damn chart. So, can I draw on this?
You can. Also, for audio listeners and Brad, this is a pretty cool looking chart, actually. So if you can't see it now, I would actually go to Gordon's review and actually take a look, because it really does tell a really good visual story at a glance.
Well, let me see if I can get to a little finer tip here. Because this is like way too big. So, okay. All right, there we go. So for audio listeners, I'm explaining. I took Cinebench R15.038, and there's an option to limit the amount of threads it runs at. These are repeated runs, so it is a little different. The score, you know, so there's some, it does cache a little bit, so they're not exactly the same as, you know, running it 3 times, doing a reboot kind of stuff. But I just wanted to see what we get. So I ran it all the way from 1 thread to 2 threads to 8 threads, all the way up to 32 threads. So manually saying use 15 threads, use 24 threads. I ran them both on a 7900X, and I ran them on the Threadripper 1950X. And I really like this because it sort of illustrates how you should buy these things and how you should approach it. So down at single thread, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, no surprise. You look down here, Intel clearly ahead, right? You're looking at 168 versus 195. Hey, can I even zoom in on this? Oh, wait. All right, let's do this. Look at this. Oh, the magic of OS 10 and the Macintosh. So look, we're zoomed in here. Look at this. So we're going to zoom in to, can I go? Yeah, say look. 168 versus 195, right? So, hey, yeah. No surprise. Skylake X all over Threadripper. 2 threads, 365 through 29. And pretty much that pattern goes like we're up to like 8 threads. Hey, Skylake X, 1324, Threadripper, 8 threads, 1177, right? So Skylake X is in charge. You cannot argue with that. It's like all those, look at that all those loads down there. They are like, whoa, I can't draw because I don't have the mode on. But as you get up to about, 12 threads, 13 threads, we're kind of equaling out here. Right at 12 threads, in fact, Threadripper is a little bit faster. It's really a tie, 1705 for Skylake X versus 1733 for Threadripper. So you sort of Intel's curve. Let's see if we can we draw here? Let's try to. Oh no. Okay, we'll go back here.
Real quick, Moron Soldier saying in this chart about the scaling, since the i9 7900X is only 10 core, 20 threads. What other CPU did you use for your testings to go up to the 32 threads?
So what I did was so look, check this chart out. So look, we only used two. We used the 7900X 10 core versus Threadripper 16 core. Both of them have, SMT, Intel calls yours hyperthreading, and AMD has. But look, again, Intel right here. Let's follow this curve. We flatten out right at about 18, 19 threads. No surprise, because it runs out of steam once you run out of cores. Threadripper, though, so let's draw this. Look at this. You keep going, right? So the way I sort of see this is, damn, I do feel like a college professor. Mueller. If you are running your life, if you live like, hey, I don't have all these threads. I really run a lot of really, games, a lot of things that don't need that thread count. You know what? You are going to get more from Core i9, 10 core, right? So if you're down here, you're playing a lot of games, you're doing a lot of Photoshop, maybe you do a few things that gets multi-threaded. Hey, that's awesome. You're getting actually a little more performance, definitely more. But if you are doing rendering, encoding, all kinds of that heavy duty stuff, this is where Threadripper just smashes the hell out of Core i9. I mean, look at this. There's just so much. All this.
I have a question, though. If you're living down here in that 1 to 8 thread range, do you even really need a 7900X at that point?
Yeah. So I mean, I agree with you, and that is one of the things that I think is a real big problem for Core i9 7900X is if you're really a video editor like Adam, if you're doing a lot of Blender, a lot of 3D stuff, a lot of effect stuff where you need as many cores as you get, are you really going to pick a CPU that only gives you 10 cores and just runs out of steam as you really load it up, or for the exact same price? And that is the problem for Core i9 7900X. Are you going to give up? Look at this. You're going to get all this right here. You're giving up this entire top of that just, for what? For this? Maybe for some people, that's the right thing to do, Who
would those people be?
I don't know. I mean, maybe if you're a game streamer, because you are getting high clock speeds, high IPC, and you really don't need 32 threads for what a lot of, unless you're getting extreme. But, for a lot of people, let me just clear this because it just looks like a pile.
So for somebody who's more gaming first, but also doing some other things in the background, like a streamer that would live, who's primarily going to live down here, but still needs those extra cores so that it doesn't actually affect game performance while they're actually playing.
Yeah. Well,
testing has shown that the Ryzen 7 chips outshine Intel's 7700K if you're gaming and streaming. It drops less frames or whatnot. So I would think that this would the Intel chips would do really well for that because you still get that gaming performance like the 7900X, but you get those extra cores too.
So that would be that's very specific use case then.
Yeah, but if you're streaming to several sources and recording it locally, you would want the more cores, in which case Threadripper would be better. So when you're dealing with chips that's expensive, it's all what's your niche case. So
we got a question that Chan's been trying to fit in here for a little bit. Does AMD use Zeppelin die so that they can create CPUs having more than 16 cores to compete with Intel's 18 cores?
Wait, so
he's asking, do they use a Zeppelin die to scale to more cores?
In this one, yeah. I mean, it's two 8-core dies, right? So, there are two 4-core CCXs, two 4-core complexes connected with the Infinity Fabric, connected to a second die. So, yeah.
So they could scale.
You mean to 32? Could AMD say, hey, bam, here's 32 cores for consumers? I suppose. I'm not sure that the infrastructure is there for it. Also,
what's the use case?
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. And I got to say that, Threadripper kind of messes things up for people for a long time in a way because, holy smokes, look, 4 years ago, $1,000 got you a 6-core CPU, an Ivy Bridge E, right? And that was at like 6 cores. And I was like, that was a big deal because it was 2 more than 4 cores. And then it was like, then we get Haswell E, a couple years later, a year later, you get, 8 cores. Woo, okay, hey, that was not bad. And then so like Intel's been like, okay, we're going to give you more cores. We're going to give you 6th and 8th and 10. AMD's like, bam, we're just going to rush up to 16. So, I mean, Intel's going to react. They're going to, obviously they have an 18-core CPU now. So what's AMD going to like, they're really going to go to 24 or 32? And then like, they basically hit that diminishing returns really fast. I just don't, I love CPU cores. I can't see what a consumer would need a 32-core CPU for. Even these things are like, yeah, you're kind of stretching. A 16 core is awesome, but do I need more than that? I don't know. Where do you go from here?
I think it's kind of like Ryzen. What they did as well is that not only did it, add more cores, and get that kind of in the public consciousness, it's also pushing down the price. Right?
Yes.
I mean, you're comparing it to a 10-core that's
$1,000.
Yeah. So, like they're saying, hey, let's add more cores, but let's also cut down the price. Because I mean, really, they've been way too up there for their cores.
No, I mean, that's why everybody applauds AMD, right? Because they have democratized core counts. I mean, forever, you just like 6-core CPU, man, you're special. Whoa, yeah, see a 6-core Sandy Bridge E. Woo! But now it's like 6 cores. I got that in a Ryzen 5 for $80. Of course, not $80, but it's like you were going to be there, right? Who knows? 2 years from now, 6-core CPU could be $80, right? So,
I got another good question from SBW on YouTube. If he enables gaming mode, will it also cut the PCIe lanes in half?
It does not, because again, remember, both of those dies are hot. Both of the memory controls are hot. In fact, both dies are still turned on. Windows doesn't recognize one of them. But what you do is you switch from local mode to distributed mode, or I think basically NUMA mode, right? So everything works. You can access all the memory. All the PCIe lanes are on. This is not Kaby Lake X, so that'd be kind of cool, though, right? They have a Kaby Lake X mode, turns off half your PCIe, but. Just kidding.
Oh man.
I mean, that's the other thing too, right? Let's just. AMD has democratized PCIe in a way. It's like, I understand. I guess. I mean, like forever, right? All the way from forever, the 16, right? It's been 16 PCIe lanes. Sandy Bridge. When did they first? Sandy Bridge is when they first moved PCIe in, or was it Clarkdale? I forget. Arendelle. I don't remember, but
it was a while ago.
It was a while ago, but it was like 16, right? That's it, 16, no more, right? That's it. And then you're like, well, you want more? You got to pay for it. 40 lanes PCIe. You need to. And then, of course,
now it's just
64.
64, here you go.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. So there's 3 chips, right? You got Ryzen 1950X, you got Ryzen 1900, the 12-core. 1920X, and then you have 1900X, which is the 8-core version with, basically you get 8 cores. A lot of people saying, well, why the hell would I buy that? Why don't you just buy a Ryzen 7? I don't want to buy a $400 motherboard. But they're like, it makes a lot of sense. You get 64 PCIe lanes. You're getting quad channel memory control. So quad channel memory controller. So that to me is nice. It's like the message for Ryzen 7, Ryzen Threadripper 1900X is like it's a Ryzen 7, but for people who want a beefy system. So,
as a random side note, KT Cool is asking when we'll eat the paper for the Threadripper price guessing.
Oh yeah. So who was? Brad was right. I was right on Vega pricing though, but I don't think we. Yeah. So we will do a day of reckoning one day for all of the guesses.
Can we cook the paper with something?
I was thinking about making a burrito or something.
I don't want to eat ash.
I think it's going to be a lot easier to stomach.
Just drizzle it in some olive oil.
We can blend it. We'll put it in. I don't know. Go ahead.
When we do that episode and we end up eating all the paper and then we transition into making our predictions for next year, I have a feeling that all that paper will make us more hesitant for the second edition of that.
Yeah, true. He's got a point there. Because, I was thinking we wait until the next prediction episode. It's like, hey, Day of Reckoning, but then also
that is really
we transition
We should make it a special thing, Adam. We'll bring food. We'll bring catered food in, which means we go to the vending machine. And then...
I just get a hot dog bun. You just shove it in a hot dog bun and just eat it real quick.
That could work.
Maybe dip it in water. Yeah.
Kind of like... the rice paper will decide to disintegrate.
Yeah. So, All right. Any other? So I burn a lot of time on Threadripper. Is there anything else? I got game mode. We're talking about performance.
You're going to talk about memory stuff.
Oh, and people are also asking about heat.
Oh, heat. So, I don't know. Again, I was running a Flow Ring 360, so I had absolutely no thermal issues. Honestly, I wasn't paying attention to the thermals because it wasn't throttling. But I did look at power. I didn't try to strip everything down again. There wasn't much time to do this. I didn't strip everything down and use the same components, but Threadripper definitely idles on the board. The Zenith Extreme ROG Zenith Extreme does idle at a little higher. I wouldn't say it was a deal breaker versus 7900X running, an all CPU encode or something, or an all core Cinebench. You might be looking at, it was like 280 on 7900X, and it might have been 60 more watts on Threadripper. So, honestly, not a lot of power. I mean, yeah, I guess, 350 watts is probably a lot of power to some people, but it wasn't a big deal breaker to me. So, and it's not, again, mine 7900X, just running a standard, Corsair cooler. It is not, it has this reputation of running like a fusion reactor, but it wasn't so bad for me. So 250 watts idle. The Skylake X part would idle. Again, these are not exact. I didn't have the same power supply in both of those. And so one of them had more fans, but generally the Skylake X is idle like 80, 90 watts, and the maybe 60, and Threadripper might be 120 or something like that. It was like maybe 50 watts more in total most of the time.
You were going to talk about memory speeds earlier, weren't you?
I don't remember.
Yeah, and also that all that awesome glue in the middle.
Oh, an awesome glue.
Yeah, the infinity fact. Actually, somebody asked a question earlier. I'm sorry, I totally forgot who was asking it. But is mesh networking the next core war? Who can get their mesh architecture better?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's improvements to be made, or just simply people got to deal with it.
More glue.
It'll just be more CPUs, right? So. 18 cores. I don't think Intel's going to change it. That's something they've invested heavily in for Xeon. So, and they sort of need it as they get to these super high core counts. So it's not going to go away. Probably the world will just have to deal with it. Okay, it is 10:26. So we are rapidly running out of time. Yeah. We need to get on other topics.
All right. Let's hit another topic.
Wait, did anybody actually bring the details? Hopefully Brad did, because I forgot to actually print out, or no, he didn't. He's looking at me like, it's your job.
I have it right here on my screen though.
All right.
He's got it.
So Threadripper came out today. Earlier this week, Intel released the final details for the rest of its Intel Core i9 series, which is their super high core count chips. Came out earlier this week. So these are, we already knew the 12 core and under, so these are basically the 14 core and up. They released all the details for them. And the base clock speeds are pretty low. The 7940X, which is the 14 core 28 thread part, is 3.1 gigahertz, which isn't bad, I guess. The 7960X, which is the 16 core 32 thread part, identical to the top end Threadripper, its base clock speed is 2.8 gigahertz, and its 18 core chip, the 7980XE, I'm not sure what the E stands for, is 2.6 gig base. So, pretty conservative base clock speeds on these. But they turbo clock pretty high. All of these turbo to 4.2 to 4.3 gigahertz. So depending on what you're doing, it can get going pretty fast, but the base clock is pretty conservative. And they all still stick to 44 PCIe Express lanes. People were thinking maybe they'll, up the PCIe count on the higher end chips to try to compete with Threadripper. They didn't, still 44. TDP on all the higher ones are 165 watts. With all the higher ones are 165 watts compared to 140 watt TDP for the 12 core and 10 core chip that we already knew about.
And the
so now we know everything. We know all the spec details at this point about Core i9. The 12 core one, I believe, is coming later this month.
Yeah,
is that
supposedly,
right?
Yeah. I'm sure it'll come just in time to wreck my life. So
such optimism.
You don't need sleep.
Yeah.
And the rest of them are. They originally said October, but they pulled it into September 25th.
Yeah.
So they're ready in their Threadripper response. Any thoughts on that? What do you think about the core speeds?
Yeah. So, I think a few podcasts ago, we actually broke news of those base clocks of the 12-core part. And I think I was like, man, that looks dismal. But, in hindsight, I don't think it's that bad. I know, of course, if you look at those base clock speeds and you go like, oh, man, this is going to suck. But for the most part, because my point of reference is Core i9 7900X as well as Broadwell E. The base clocks are actually very conservative on both of those. The base clock in that 7900X is 3300, right? 3.3 gigahertz.
Mm-hmm. And Haswell E, I think, was 3, pardon me.
Yeah, but I will say on the 7900X parts, even though it has a 3.3 gigahertz base clock, and you think like, man, that's just terrible, because going back to Sandy Bridge E, a lot of those base clocks, it would run at that base clock quickly. 7900X, you crank up a workload on that, all threads, you run it for 20 minutes, it'll run all of it at 4 gigahertz for the most part. Even though the base clock is very conservative at 3300, it is almost all the time running at super high clock speeds. So I wouldn't be too concerned with it, but at the same time, that a 10-core chip is different than an 18-core chip, and 140 watt TDP part is different from 165 watts. If they really can't hold those clocks up at a high enough speed, then yeah, 2.6 gigahertz base clock is like, whew, that could be painful. But it very much depends on what Intel thinks they can safely hit all the time, and basically what they tell the board vendors to set it for, right? Because they say like, look, this chip will hold this with this much power, so do that. It's going to depend. We'll have to see. We'll have to actually see the part to see if it can actually do it. And the E does stand for Extreme Edition, Brad.
Extreme.
No, so what's just the X? Is it just Extreme, not an Edition?
It's just an X.
Because the rest of them just have an X.
It's Extreme without the E.
It's just an
Extreme.
It's not as extreme.
I think it actually used to stand for Extreme, but on this series of chips, this is the Core X series. So, yes, it's very different. So E is the only true extreme part, although they're all unlocked. Extreme parts used to be the only unlocked kind of high-end parts, but I don't know. It's a different world we live in now. So
nice.
So I got to say, like, performance. So now we've seen 16-core Threadripper. I haven't seen 12-core tests that I've run myself, but I have seen AMD's own results. I got to say, I think the 14-core to 16-core, the 16-core, I think, stands a good chance to be faster if they can hold those clocks. It could be faster than a 1950X part. 14 actually could be very competitive with it because you get those the low thread count high clocks, and also 14 cores. They're a little more efficient. Maybe they hold higher clocks. It could be even. I don't know. The 18-core part will probably be when it comes out. Frankly, if we don't know. I'm not saying it, but it could very well be the fastest thing there is. But it's twice as much, right? That's kind of the problem, right? It's like, okay, am I going to take my 16-core Threadripper and a 1080 Ti and 32 gigs of RAM, or do I just want a CPU with two more cores, right? So that's a tough one.
Price is big in general. The 16-core part from Intel is $1,700, I believe. Yeah, $1,700. So same amount of cores as Threadripper, $700 more, so 70% more. I've already been talking to some professional streamers, and they decided to go with Threadripper because it works well enough for what they do,
right? And
is $700 cheaper. So
yeah, I mean that's a whole motherboard and a decent sized SSD, or it's a the top end consumer gaming graphics card. It's just so many things you can do with it, right? It's
a good chunk of change.
And sorry,
but that said, if you're doing like pro rendering or something, if it does wind up being faster with the same amount of threads for Intel parts, I mean, that's worthwhile if it's your business, like if you're doing video rendering or whatnot. But we'll know more about that when the reviews come out.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, the price. Intel's problem is I don't think it's not like Intel can't compete on performance. They probably can. Everything indicates, everything I've seen, yeah, they have a good message on performance. They just don't have a good message on price. And I don't know. Are they going to? Do you think they would cut it? I mean,
No, I mean, they've already said it for now. I don't think they're going to backtrack that anytime soon.
Yeah.
It's too soon for that.
They don't tend to cut prices. What they set is what they set.
It sounds like another Silicon Valley company that starts with A.
What's that?
I don't know. You've got one of those computers right in front of you. I'm sorry, we got a couple people kind of guessing on what the E and the X stand for.
Yeah.
Ruru2 said the E stands for extra glue. Jelen, I don't know, am I pronouncing it right? Who knows? XE stands for extremely expensive.
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
So you know I will tell you where I think the X came from. I'm just guessing here. I don't think they've ever officially said exactly like how they came up with the X, but so if you go all the way back to the Pentium 4, right? Pentium 4 having a hard time fighting against, AMD Athlon, so they're like, hey, Gordon, Pentium Extreme Edition version, which is basically they took I think it was a Gallatin. It was they took a Xeon, they rebadged it into a Pentium. Here you go. Big ass cache, actually competitive. Oh man. The Pentium Extreme Edition, it's awesome. The PEE, right? They're like, no. It's not PEE. It's not, yeah, because it's Pentium Extreme Edition. No, it's Pentium Extreme. It's X. Just drop the first E. Pentium X Extreme Edition.
I'm gonna go pick up.
So it's not PEE. No, Pentium Extreme. No, I'm not, and I'm not kidding, because this is a conversation I had with George Alves a long time ago, and he was probably like, "Are you dumb? There's no E. It's Extreme Edition, but it's spelled E. There's an E, but the X is capital. We're gonna do Pentium Extreme Edition, PEE." Yes,
that's pretty good. Also, we have another funny off-topic question, but related to your Threadripper unboxing and installing video. Where can I find it? I totally lost it. Moron Soldier was asking if you still have your Hello Kitty bandage on, or did you rip it off?
No, I ripped it off. Hey, so I'm going to bring that up because we don't have much time. I'm going to bring this up. So I did that dead tired. I was 3 days of 5 hours sleep a night, right? I couldn't see anything because my vision had changed. I didn't realize it because I came back, because after looking at a laptop screen for 3 days, I was blind. We didn't have instructions. No fault. This is very early stuff. And clearly there were issues, I think as they would say in presidential administration, there mistakes were made. But I will say I have since seen an internal AMD video that they showed the press. They're like, hey, dumbasses, this is how you install Threadripper. And I did it exactly the way that they did it in their video. So they actually say to torque screw number 1 all the way down, and then torque 2 and 3. Instead of starting threads 2 and 3, as Elena noticed, because she wasn't as wasted as me, and she's smarter. So
that's what chat said, actually.
I just want to say that. I just want to put that out there, that somehow I actually did it the way AMD recommended.
Wrong.
Even though it did not work.
Wrong.
So,
all right. Any more Core i9 details that we need to go over?
No. I mean,
they're coming,
right? So we'll see the 12-core part. I gotta say it's going to be competitive, and then we are going to see the others in Halloween, probably around Halloween, right? I think they're on the roadmap for October. So we'll see.
September 25th. They moved it up.
Oh, they have? Oh,
yep.
I did not know.
September 25th.
Oh, boy.
Now you can't say October surprise.
Boy. Dang it.
It's going to be a busy freaking fall.
Yeah.
You know what else is coming?
What?
Intel's 8th edition chips.
Oh.
Ooh, nice segue.
Whoa.
Yes. So we're talking about Threadripper and Ryzen a bunch, right? But no, Threadripper and Core i9 a bunch. But that's not the only area where Intel has to battle these new chips from AMD. I mean, Ryzen 7 5.3 came out, and they're pretty competitive against the Core series of chips. So Intel's bringing out the next series, 8th gen Core chips, Coffee Lake. And they announced this week that they will be doing a live stream on August 21st, the same day as I guess it's called the Great American Eclipse. Can't
see it anywhere else. America. Yep.
And on that day, they're going to show performance. They're going to reveal the lineup. They're going to give you idea of performance for the next gen 8th 8th gen core chips. They've said in the past it'll be up to 30% faster than today's Kaby Lake processors. We'll see about that. I mean, that's pretty aggressive. If it's true, that'd be great, but we'll have to see. Some of the other rumors about 8th gen are that it's widely expected to introduce more core counts to the Core series lineup. So, maybe 6-core chips, maybe quad-core Core i3s. We'll have to see. We'll know more on the 21st if you watch the live stream rather than the Eclipse.
It's not, to me, like, just from I will actually be watching the Eclipse because I'm actually going to Oregon with the rest of America, I think, at that time. But is that a mistake to launch your next generation or next CPU or whatever it is on a day where nobody will be paying attention to anything else except for the Eclipse? I don't get it. I don't get that part of it. You guys think that makes sense from a PR marketing point of view, or?
I mean, what time is the event? I think it's actually pretty early for the West Coast, so maybe it won't coincide with it.
Maybe, but
just like 8 a.m. Pacific.
8 a.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern. Yeah.
That's pretty early.
Yeah, and I think the Eclipse is what, 10-ish or something? I don't remember, but they're
just gonna like squeeze that in, and then everyone.
Isn't the whole world gonna be watching and reading and everything else about this thing, though? I mean, why? To me, it just seems odd that they would do this. Although I get the symbolism, I do get the symbolism, right? They're saying whatever Threadripper Ryzen, bam, check this out. We're gonna eclipse you. So are they the sun or are they the moon? I don't, but okay.
It's weird. It's very weird.
Yeah, everyone on chat saying that they're not a fan. So
of the actually doing it that day, the timing.
Well, yeah, their marketing efforts.
The timing, I gotta say, is interesting. I mean, I won't be seeing it unless there's good internet there. So I'll actually be setting up for the Eclipse there. Getting chairs.
Yeah, there's going to be all kinds of people are taking the day off to have Eclipse parties and traveling. It's very weird.
Yeah, I don't. But of course, so actually, you mentioned the rumors. What other? So I have seen rumors. We haven't reported them, but 8700K, right?
Yep. I don't have those details in front of me.
6-core, but it's a 6-core. The rumors are a 6-core part, right? So that's the,
yep.
And in fact, hey, actually, this brings up that thing I wrote about last week. Or was that this week? My God, I can't ever remember.
It's all
blurring into 1 week because there's like actually taking a weekend. That there are the reports that Z270 will not work with Coffee Lake.
Yes, right? Yeah.
ASRock came out and said it, and they didn't take it back. And I got to say, I was like, well, this is crazy. I asked Intel what to deal with that is because we here in the podcast said, yeah. There's Coffee Lake should work, right? Why would Kaby Lake not work, or whatever the hell it is? Why would it not work in this board? It's basically the same process. There's really nothing changed. I will say I did talk to 2 other board vendors. I'm not going to name them, and they said, yeah, it's everything we know. It's you're going to have to buy something new. So, which kind of pisses everybody off, right? Because if you just bought a Z270 board, it's like it's over, baby. You got to toss it.
I guess they're figuring that the people who already went with Kaby Lake aren't planning to upgrade.
Yeah,
I completely understand that point of view. That hey, I just bought this. What the hell? I can't upgrade. It's still 14 nanometer process. What's going on? But to be fair, this isn't new from Intel. They've always been you get 2 generations out of a motherboard family. Right, so like Skylake and Kaby Lake, and before that it was Sandy Bridge and Ivy Bridge, or way before that it was Broadwell and Haswell.
Right.
It's always been like that. It would be nice to see him shift away from that, but it's not unusual. It's not coming out of left field from Intel.
Yeah, but I think it's just disappointing.
I mean, it's not breaking with their tradition in that regard, but they're breaking tradition in other regards. So there's really no reason for them to keep it. So
yeah,
I'm just saying, if you're already breaking tradition elsewhere, there's no reason to, keep tradition other places if it's not absolutely necessary. And I don't think they've said anything that's actually made a point for it. So.
Oh, you mean actually whether they've confirmed it or whether it's...
Confirmed it, and also on top of that, actually said anything that said, hey, we know that this might be upsetting news, but here's why we did it.
Yeah. And in the story I wrote there, basically, I think there's, 3 possible reasons. One is, hey, We're Intel. We had that thing called the FDiv bug, and unless we can say absolutely everything works, our lawyers are going to say you can't do anything. So we're going to certify Z whatever it is. You know, the rumors are 370 chipset, Z370, I think is what they're going to call it.
Yep. We're
going to certify Z370 to work with Coffee Lake. We're not going to go back and do these other things because we're going to get sued, so we're not going to do it. So that's one possible reason, being conservative, because, you know, FDiv bug, lawyers ruin all the fun. Other one is like, hey, this is so fun. Why don't you go buy a new motherboard? Market segmentation, go buy something new to go with your new CPU. We make money off the chipset too. That is a cynical reason. The third reason, which, as I understand from talking to people, could really be the reason, is it don't work. It just does not work. If 8700K is a 6-core part, you know, it's going to use more power.
Wasn't made for that.
Z270, which is just Z170 up revved, right? Or like, we never expected you to draw that much power. So all the VRM specs, all this stuff, we didn't make this to run a 6-core CPU. And for all we know, Intel could jam an 8-core in there. We don't know what their plans are. So I don't really know what the actual reasons are, but it's one of those three things. And I'm going to guess from talking to board vendors, number 3, the internet assumes it's number 2, which is, hey, go buy a new chipset too and give us more money. So, which is, of course, you know, the reason why people get angry.
It could be all 3. They're not mutually exclusive.
It could also be all 3.
It's rough, though. Imagine, like, if you had bought a Skylake chip, right? So you have Z170. You bought a quad core. You bought a, 66K. And you're like, sweet, I can game. And then these Coffee Lake chips come out. You're like, sweet, I can get 6 cores now. I'll upgrade. If you could just drop it in the socket, it's a no-brainer. But if you have to upgrade to a whole new motherboard, you have to buy the whole new chip. That sucks. And at the same time, AMD's here with this multi-core part saying, hey, we're going to support this motherboard platform to at least 2020.
Yep.
So it's a rough place.
And it's also, to me, I know you have a point, because it's like, hey, you just bought a 7700K. Are you really going to go out and buy another CPU? That's true, but I tend to think people think really long term. You bought a 7700K, you can use that baby for 5 years, right? And in 5 years, you go, oh, right, I'm going to buy a Coffee Lake part on eBay now, cheap. I got to get a new motherboard. So
no, that's fair. I mean, like, you see a ton of that in like the hardware swap subreddit, where there are people in there who are upgrading from Sandy Bridge to Ivy Bridge.
Right. So, and I think what I think is really bad, though, is because it's like, if Intel could make Coffee Lake, whatever it is, compatible with existing Z270. If you have a Z270 board and you go like, okay, I want a 6-core CPU because I'm doing more whatever, streaming, whatever, or I'm doing, you know, more video editing, I want more cores. And you go out like, okay, I'm going to go buy a new Coffee Lake, drop it in, good to go, don't got to do anything. But when they got to go like, now I need a new motherboard, then you start looking at, it frees you from the shackles of, you know, of buying Intel, because now you're like, well, now all my options are open. Whereas if you could run it in Z270, you're going to go, there's probably a 90% chance you're going to go out and buy a Coffee Lake part, because it's like, it works. It's cheaper. You don't have to worry about like, oh, I got to redo everything. But now when you have to buy a new motherboard, it's a good chance of pushing people toward the competition. So
I mean, that's where I'm at personally, you know.
Yep.
So.
Perfect. Adam is advocating for.
Yeah, at home.
You're on Z87 though, right? You're a Haswell person.
Ivy Bridge.
No, you're running a Devil's Canyon part.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Although, yeah, you're in the perfect position. When you do your upgrade, you look at all options. You don't go like, I'm only going to buy one, right?
Yep.
So,
I tell you what, man, the 7700K is already a kick-ass gaming chip. If it does somehow get 2 more cores and even 15-20% more performance, not the 30% that Intel has claimed in some situations, that would be awfully interesting.
Well, yeah, I got to say, it's going to make it tough for Ryzen 5 at that point, because if you're looking at, and the rumors are, none of this is confirmed because they're rumors and we know how often those are wrong, but they're saying 4.7 turbo. A 4.7 turbo on that Coffee Lake part is like, man, that is going to be hard for any Ryzen 5 part. Even Ryzen 7 at a certain point, that's going to be tough, but we'll see if they can pull it off, right? I mean,
or with all these extra cores, the industry will finally start adopting multi-core, you know, performance.
They will support it, right? Because apparently the egg is here now. Because we're waiting for the chicken.
Right?
Chicken didn't show up. Egg's here now. So
yeah. So I mean, then at that point, if people start coding better for multi-core and using that, what has Intel got? That's kind of what their last hanging hat, right? Is that we've got great single thread performance.
Well, but it does help them. I mean, as much as people like to bag at Intel, they have been pushing developers to support multi-core CPUs for a long time. And it really, if anything, you could say we've gotten here because of all the work they've done. At the same time, Intel saying, we want you to do this, we want you to do this. Well, we'll do it. Can you make these CPUs $100? Okay, we can't help you with that, right? So that's their problem. That's sort of what AMD has done now, so everybody's got them. So I think in the end, this could help Intel, where they could never go with the pricing. They didn't have the competition for years. They would never go there for pricing. But now that the pricing is there, now that you can get an 8-core all-in-one like on Elena's desk over there with a Ryzen 7 in it at Costco, then you're going to be like, hey, you know what, developer, let's support 8 cores now.
So sorry, not to cut this off, but I literally got a text from our boss saying we have our meeting in 10 minutes.
We have 10 minutes. Okay, why don't we do 10 minutes of questions?
Oh no,
Are we done? We're clear?
Yeah, let's clear it up.
Cut it off.
Yeah,
we got to go. Sorry, everybody. All right.
We'll do questions next time.
We'll do questions next time, but the good thing is you can send them to us. I will tell you right now where to send it. Check back in 2 weeks or so, maybe not, for your fix of PC Talk on the Full Nerd. For audio listeners, subscribe to us on iTunes and go and review us. Say how awesome we are. Yes. And then you will actually get a no prize, which is no prize. You can also listen on Google Play, Stitcher, and send your questions and comments such as, Gordon, you really botched up that Ryzen Threadripper install to thefullnerd@pcworld.com. Thanks for coming. I'm Gordon Young with Brad Charkis.
Adios.
Elena Yee.
Bye, everyone.
Adam Patrick Murray will turn us off.
See you later, guys. Bye.